Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Italy, Poland, two sides looking to start their new managerial eras on a good note. Italy not making the World Cup, Poland performing bad at the World Cup. How would Italy do under Roberto Mancini? Would Poland bounce back from a poor World Cup performance? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to break down how Italy drew against Poland. So Italy and Poland are two sides that are looking to be legitimate contenders at Euro 2020. This is where it kind of all begins. In today's video, we're going to break down why the first half was so cagey and poor and how Italy bounced back in the second half. When we do break it down, we have Italy here in a 4-3-3. You had Lorenzo Insigne cutting in from the left. You had Bernardeschi looking to cut in from the right. You had Mario Balotelli returning to the national team up front, more of a center forward presence up there. So that would be key. They'd want him to drop deep and they'd be looking for him to spin the defenders to get him behind the defense. In midfield, a bit functional, Lorenzo Pellegrini. They had Gagliardini as the shuttlers just in behind them. They were expecting Jorginho to pull the strings like he has done at Chelsea to start the Premier League season. Out in wider areas, they want the fullbacks to get forward, Biraghi, and they have Zappacosta, which is why they have the wider players tucking in so that they could push forward and provide natural width. And then at center back, Bonucci, Chiellini, the Juventus center backs with Donnarumma back in goalkeeper. So when you look at it as a whole, where are they going to get creativity from? Jorginho looks like the sole outlet. Can the shuttlers perform a job? Can they offer that additional creativity from midfield? And how would they get Balotelli into the mix? It would be interesting to see how Italy went about their business. But again, this Polish side, the way they were lined up, you were expecting them to be more reactive, and it would be it was interesting to see how Italy would try to break them down. We look at Poland, more of a 4-4-1-1, Robert Lewandowski up front, all-around center forward, something that Mario Balotelli could learn from in the way he plays his game. You look at Lewandowski and you have to think, how is he going to get service? He was deprived of service at the World Cup. He needed it here. And it was a bit odd because you had Zielinski playing just in behind him, not really the creative number 10, but that kind of summed up how Poland were going to go about the game, and we'll get to that in a bit. But they had Zielinski just in behind them, outer and wide areas. They had Błaszczykowski and Kurzawa, hardworking wide players that can push forward and offer you that direct threat. In midfield, they went with Krychowiak and Klich. So what they had there is a solid base, and then they were hoping that Krychowiak would be able to drop a bit deeper and spread play and dictate the tempo of the game, assuming that Italy wouldn't press them. Outer and wide areas, Berezinski and Reka, who would be able to push forward if needed, but also solid defensively. And at the back, you look at Benarek, and they have Glick. So when you look at Poland, 4-4-1-1, trying to sit a bit deeper, looking to clog the space for Italy, and it would be interesting to see how both teams would go about it. But in the first half, given the way that their system was, it was very cagey. So when we break down the first half, it was quite cagey, perhaps due to the fact that both sides were kind of playing identical systems. When we do look at it, Italy often had the ball. They were looking to break down Poland because Poland sat off a bit deeper, and they were okay with that, solely because they knew that Italy couldn't get through the middle of the field, and that was based on the fact that how they lined up. They knew that they would have to push them out wide, and there they were organized as well. This was based on Zielinski, who did play the biggest role in the first half and more so in the second half, because he was sitting on Jorginho. He was ensuring that Jorginho couldn't get the ball, didn't have time to dictate play passes out to the flanks, play intricate passes into the forward players. And if you take him out of the game, you have to rely on Pellegrini and Gagliardini to create chances, and that really isn't going to happen, especially when you have Krychowiak and Klich stepping to him and ensuring that he can't get on the ball. So Poland were good in that aspect. Zielinski did a very good job on Jorginho, and we'll get to that in a second. And here they gambled on the 2v1s with Lewandowski against the center backs. They know that Bonucci could get forward. They know that Chiellini get forward. They would often try and get Lewandowski to cover off on Bonucci, but we'll get back to how Italy was disrupted in deeper positions in a second. And no matter which they went forward, again, they want Biraghi to get forward. They have Insigne somewhat narrow, but Poland were very organized and disciplined. They dropped off deeper as the Italy shuttlers pushed forward. They had Krychowiak and they had Klich monitoring them and ensuring that they couldn't get time on the ball. And when Italy tried to play through the wider areas, Kurzawa dropped off and ensured that there was always 2v2. You had Blaszczykowski dropping off, so it was always 2v2 with Zappacosta and Bernardeschi trying to cut in, and now there was really no service for Mario Balotelli. Yes, when he got the ball, his link-up play wasn't very good. He didn't really charge into the channels, trying to break space and break lines, so that was a big problem for him, and Italy really struggled in that aspect. And with that being said, there was a lot of space in the channels to counterattack when Poland did get the opportunity to do that, and they did on a few occasions. And again, the space in those channels were available, but Italy were somewhat let off the hook in that regard. But you look at it as a whole, Italy never really created chances. You think about their best chances in that first half, you have to think about Biraghi stepping forward and then being closed down, and it was Balotelli dropping off, and he switched the ball over to him. Balotelli picked up the ball, he ended up firing his shot wide. You think about another opportunity where, again, this is from a goalkeeping mistake from Fabianski, playing it out the back, Krychowiak trying to drop off, it ends up falling to Gagliardini, who does play it to Jorginho, and then he slides in Bernardeschi, who should score but flashes his shot wide of the net. But apart from that, there was never really a spell where Fabianski struggled or was forced to make any pivotal saves in that first half, and that was a big warning sign for Italy. And the other aspect was the fact that, again, Jorginho was marked out of the game. He was forced to make poor passes throughout. You have Zielinski sitting on him on several occasions. That was a big problem. He was misplacing passes. When they try to get Bonucci to get forward, there was one opportunity where Bonucci stepped forward and then Zielinski gambled and stepped to him because Jorginho dropped into that space to his left, but Lewandowski was there, so Bonucci had to play the pass. The pass flicked off Zielinski's foot, and it was very poor. And like I said, if Chiellini stepped forward, there was one time where he slid it over to Bernardeschi, but he was unable to control the ball. It just wasn't working out for Italy. They were sloppy in possession. They couldn't get their key creator to get on the ball. And when you think about their chances and the way that they reacted to the game, they did do a good job in the sense that when Poland tried to come forward, they tried to press them to ensure that Krychowiak couldn't get into the game. And what happened there was that the center backs split out wide. You have the Polish center back splitting out wide. You have Balotelli pushing to one. You have Insigne pushing to the next one. Then you have Pellegrini stepping to Krychowiak, and if Jorginho needs to move out into space to cover out the marked man, he can't do that, and Bernardeschi is stepping to Recca. So when you look at it, Italy never really struggled in that regard, and Poland never really created chances in open play based on the fact that they spent a lot of time in the first half sitting a bit deeper. So how did they create their chances? That is when you have to look to the way that they were pressing, the way that they played without the ball, and you think about some of their best chances as we get these guys back into their position. It stems from Italy being forced to play out the back or trying to get it through Jorginho, and it wasn't working out. One of their first opportunities that they did almost concede a goal, and again, it's Zielinski being involved. It's Bonucci stepping forward. He's trying to get the pass into Gagliardini. What happens here is that Gagliardini is pressed by Klich. It falls to Krychowiak, and then he plays the long ball instantly into Lewandowski. Lewandowski is marked by Bonucci and Chiellini, but what happens here is that he's able to link the ball off to Zielinski, who runs in behind Biraghi, and he's able to break into that space. He should score, but he's denied by Donnarumma. But when we look at it, this is the issue that they had. They were pressed when they try to play the ball into those central areas, concede possession. Again, the fullbacks are high, so Zielinski is able to push into that space. And once again, in transition, Jorginho doesn't have the mobility to really get back into position quick enough if the transition is direct and swift. And that was one opportunity that should have led to a goal, and it almost did, but Donnarumma saved them. When you think about the goal, let's get Italy's back line in shape, because what they were trying to do is they were trying to play out of the back. And what happened here was that the pass was Jorginho drops off, Bernardeschi plays the pass into him, and now he's closed down. He's closed down by Klich, and then Blaszczykowski is there as well. And what happens there is that he tries to play the pass in, and it's blocked by Blaszczykowski, and then he's dispossessed by Klich. And what happens is that Lewandowski picks up the ball in the channel. At that point, Zielinski, who should be marking Jorginho, is free in the box. And again, the fullbacks, no one really taking taking into consideration where players should be, and Zielinski is able to drive into that box, and the ball is clipped by Lewandowski, and Zielinski makes no mistake there. But when you break down the first half as a whole, Italy had a lot of the ball, but Poland were organized in wide areas. They pressed well in central midfield. Zielinski forced Jorginho into a lot of mistakes, and Jorginho struggled when he was pressed by either Zielinski or Klich, as we could see in that mode. And then when you look at it in transition, Zielinski was able to find space to break into the box, and no one was marking him. Italy had a lot of issues to fix going into the second half, and it'd be interesting to see how Roberto Mancini went about that. Whereas for Poland, it was about sticking to this approach and ensuring that they could get more opportunities on the counterattack. So now we get to the second half, and we have to figure out how Italy were able to break down Poland. How did they get better in the second half? Well, Poland did drop off a bit deeper. Now there was less of an intent to really play on the counterattack, but there was always space for them to push forward based on the fact that now Italy's fullbacks were extremely high. Italy did make a change at halftime, bringing on Bonaventura for Pellegrini. So with Bonaventura, now you have someone who can drive a bit forward, doesn't offer you that creativity, and didn't really significantly impact the game, but his presence offered a few goal-scoring threats. However, when you look at them, Italy's pushed forward, and they were never really harmed by Poland unless they were making mistakes. Chiellini had a few awful passes. Bonucci had a few awful passes. There was one Bonucci pass that was intercepted by Klich, and he was able to clip the ball out to the left channel for Kuba Błaszczykowski. And what happens there is that Bonucci is able to come across. His shot is eventually blocked, but it fell to Lewandowski, who fired his acrobatic effort over the net. There was another opportunity where Biraghi ended up making a poor mistake, and what happened there was that his poor pass ended up seeing the ball played into the right channel for Kurzawa. He was able to push forward, and then his pass that was sent across fell to Zielinski, who skied his effort over the net. But besides that, it was all about Italy really trying to break forward, Zielinski doing a job on Jorginho. Eventually, Poland made a change. They brought on Szymanski for Klich, and later on in the game they ended up bringing on Linetti for Zielinski. So what happened there was that initially Szymanski was in midfield while Zielinski was on, but after that what we saw was that Linetti moved to midfield and Szymanski moved closer to Jorginho. How did Italy really try to go about things? They did get a lot of play down the left-hand side, and Kurzawa does deserve a lot of credit, because what happened here was they were trying to get the overlaps. Eventually, Insigne was getting crosses into the box. Biraghi was overlapping and getting crosses into the box, but none of the crosses were connecting with their teammates, and that was a big issue. It was a sign of intent. It was showing that Insigne was looking to try and take the game by the scruff of the neck. One of their better chances, we kind of saw more of a positional change where Insigne was tighter to Bereszynski, and Chiellini was able to push forward as the game wore on. And what happened here was Chiellini pushed forward, Kurzawa was caught a bit narrow, and Chiellini is able to make that pass into Biraghi free because, as you see, the right back in Bereszynski is tight on Insigne. However, the cross that Biraghi does play is overhit and goes out for a goal kick, and it's just one of the issues that Italy had. When they got into good positions, the quality wasn't there, and that was a big issue for them. So what ended up happening there was eventually they were forced to make a few changes. We did see Belotti replace Balotelli. We did see Chiesa replace Insigne, and from there we did see more of an attacking threat. What we saw from Chiesa in the opening minutes was just him getting the ball, instantly driving by Kurzawa, firing a low effort on goal. That was a sign of intent, but that stemmed from Jorginho being able to push forward and getting time on the ball. You think that perhaps maybe if Zielinski's there that doesn't happen, but this was what was transpiring. With Belotti, you saw more effort to move into the channels, more effort to run in behind, and then we get to the build up to the goal, and what ends up happening is that it stems from a transitional play. And what happens here is that as we get the Italian midfield deeper into their half, you see the Polish midfield was kind of caught. because they were trying to score the goal. And what happens here is that Chiellini ends up winning possession. He plays it to Jorginho. Jorginho's able to push forward. And with Jorginho pushing forward, what does happen is that he's able to find the pass into Chiesa. So Chiesa gets the pass between the lines. Bednarek tries to foul him. He evades his challenge. Belotti moves out to the left, combines with him, pushes forward. And what happens is that Blaszczykowski ends up fouling Chiesa in the box, and Jorginho converts the penalty. Nothing really happened after that. But like I said, Italy did take a risk. They did have issues in the channels on the counterattack. You look at how they made changes to the game. They ended up bringing on Belotti, who offered more running, positional movement than Balotelli. They bring on Chiesa, who looked to get into different spaces other than hugging the left touchline and trying to cut in. And his pace and direct play ended up changing the game. It was a brief moment where he did really impact it. But again, that was what Italy needed, a spark, someone looking to take command of the game. And they were able to rescue a point here against Poland. But all in all, Poland had a good first half, sat a bit deeper, were able to hit on the counterattack. Zielinski shutting down Jorginho was the key talking point there. The second half, they dropped off a bit too deep, lacking an attacking threat. And what happened is that Mancini was able to make a few changes in Belotti and in Chiesa, and Italy were able to rescue a point. But let me know what you guys think. What's wrong with this Italian side? Why are they performing so poorly? And do they have any players that can make a difference? And what about Poland? Showing signs of intent, showing that perhaps in the next tournament at Euro 2020, they have a solid base that can actually compete and go far in the competition. Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.